Moving on to number 5. This story is the one and only story from season 12 and one of only 2 Fourth Doctor stories and stories from the 1970s to top Genesis of the Daleks. What could be better than Genesis of the Daleks? Well, how about a story that I've always loved since I first watched it? These top 5 have been stories I have loved since I first saw them. Always been firm favourites in my mind. And my number 5 choice, also coming from season 12, The Ark in Space, from season 12 with the Fourth Doctor, 1975. In my opinion, the Fourth Doctor's second best story was his very second story. No, it's not like Spearhead from Space, where the Third Doctor's first story is one of his best. In fact, second best, I would say. But in all honesty, The Ark in Space is just an outstanding story. Like I said, I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's a bit of an Alien, it's a prototype for Alien, a child-friendly prototype for Alien. Ridley Scott did take inspiration. It's also the first story to have Harry as a proper companion, and we have the Doctor, Harry, Sarah dynamic throughout this story through to the Terror of the Zygons playing out. Remember I talked about the Fourth Doctor, Sarah dynamic around pyramids. Well, we've also got a similar dynamic, but with Harry in Robots through to Terror of the Zygons. And it's still really fun and really engaging. I like how the first episode does have the Fourth Doctor and Harry together to have some fun together. Same in Genesis as well. It is a bit... The first episode is a bit slow, and there is only 3 of them in a room, but unlike the Space Pirates, it's not boring. They actually do a bit of stuff in those rooms than just being stuck in a room for 25 bloody minutes. But whilst Patrick Troughton, Teresa Himes and Wendy Padbury could hold an episode on their own, not the episode they got. Whilst here Tom Baker, Elizabeth Sladen and Ian Marter, not only are they able to carry an episode on their own, but the episode they got was good. It was good. It was a good start. And then the following 3 episodes are also really great. In fact, actually, I think because the start was pretty good, I think it started to slow down a bit, and towards the end it started to get less interesting. But I thought it was a really great story overall, and a really fun and engaging adventure. For this to be the second story of this era, wow, just absolutely wow. And the first story to be produced by Philip Hinchcliffe, and I think it's honestly the best one he produced. Sorry, Genesis, Deadly Assassin, another story from the Hinchcliffe era fans. But honestly, I think it's The Ark in Space. The Ark in Space is the crowning achievement of the Philip Hinchcliffe era, and it was his first story. And again, written by Robert Holmes. Fantastic stuff. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 is my favourite Second Doctor story. I should tell you now, we've covered my favourite First, Third, and Sixth Doctor stories, and my favourite usual Fifth Doctor story, because my number 1 Fifth Doctor choice is technically a multi-Doctor story. So we've already covered my favourite usual Fifth Doctor story, if you know what I mean. One of his regular ones. And now these top 4 are favourite Second Doctor, favourite Fourth Doctor, favourite Fifth Doctor, including multi-Doctor stories, and favourite Seventh Doctor. So, starting off with number 4, this one's my favourite Second Doctor story, and this one, I know, is also a very popular story. I mean, maybe not as much as the War Games, and there might be some people now that even put Enemy of the World above this story in the Season 5 Best of Season 5. And when it was rediscovered, is when it went missing, but it was rediscovered in 1992 in Hong Kong. That should give you a clue to what story this is. When people saw it again, it wasn't quite the classic they remembered it, despite being one they wanted back, even being a story they wanted to be the first VHS release in 1983. But over the course of the last nearly 30 years, its reputation has, since the recovery in Hong Kong, it's gotten back into popularity, and it's become another firm favourite in the fan base. And in my opinion, it's not only the best Second Doctor story, not only is it the best 60s story, not only was it the best story of all time until 1979, but it's also probably one of the best Cyberman stories. And this is, of course, The Tomb of the Cybermen from Season 5 with the Second Doctor, 1967. I love this story. I love this adventure that with these archaeologists, including some people with ulterior motives, going to try and discover the last remains of the Cybermen after some sort of cyber war. The Doctor, Jamie, and new companion Victoria following the events of the evil of the Daleks, which is another great story that, like I said, which is another great story, but sadly that missed off being the top 20 and had to be resorted to being an honourable mention. Where did I say I put it again? Did I say 22? 23. But yeah, and they stumble across this plan, so they decide to help the archaeologists find the Cyberman remains and make sure that they stay dead. However, those with ulterior motives, including Eric Klieg, Master of the World, who I'm so glad got to have more material in the Aimless Wanderings fan audios. Thank you, Aimless Wanderings. He's such an amazing character there as well. Well done to... Fantastic performance by Benji Clifford in those. But George Pastel here also does a fantastic performance, and it's great to see this character, and also Kaftan and Toberman helping him to stop get the Cybermen on their side. However, Toberman eventually joins the Doctor's side to fight the Cybermen when Kaftan is killed. Now, despite a few implied sexism and racism in this story, it was the 60s, and why does it have to be the good ones? There is not much to complain about. This one is a fantastic story. It's a really great adventure, and Patrick Troughton gives one of his best performances of the entire show in the scene in part 3 where he talks to Victoria about his family. I'm starting to get emotional just thinking and talking about it. That scene breaks me almost every time. That is probably the best scene of the entire 60s era of the show. Sorry for anyone else who had another scene. I know the first scene in the TARDIS from Nephew Child is probably going to be up there, and some stuff from War Games. But my God, that scene is so powerful and so emotional. If you didn't like the second Doctor in season 4, you've got to start liking him at least in this story. And that's for the people who would have seen him the first time round, or people just getting into the classic era, and maybe if they're going up in chronological order. But still, Patrick Troughton is on super high form, and by this point, he and Fraser Hines had got kind of become a duo, in a way, very close friends. There's a couple of good bits, and even Deborah Watling does a great job as Victoria in her first story, despite not contributing a huge amount. But she's still good, fun to. But she's still good to watch, and not just because she's pretty. And Watling does a great performance, and this is her first proper story as a companion. So. Yes, always good to see them get themselves started in a good way. And for a very long time, The Tomb of the Cybermen was the best Doctor Who story in chronological order, in my opinion, only to be topped in 1979, about 12 years, just over 12 years later. So now we come to number 3. Time to get a bit more happy now. With Tomb of the Cybermen getting me emotional, I've got to start getting happy now, because my number 3 is probably the most funniest Doctor Who story as well. Or at least the one that uses comedy to its biggest strengths. Number 3, and my friend Matt will be very happy to see this story up here. The only disappointment he'd have is that it's not number 1. Sorry, Matt. But it's number 3, so he should be happy about this, and this would be my number 5 overall. Number 3 is, of course, my favourite 4th Doctor story, City of Death, from season 17, with the 4th Doctor, 1979. City of Death is amazing. I mean, on the surface, it doesn't look like much. This alien called Scarif is trying to start up his species again, and he gets splintered across time. So different splinters of him try to somehow develop technology in order for one of them to steal a couple Mona Lisa, and have a couple of fake copies of the Mona Lisa to sell to art dealers to get money to build a time machine so he can go back and stop his earlier self from blowing himself up and splintering himself throughout time, and save the Jaggeroth race, whilst also preventing the human race from being created because he doesn't like humans. Actually, that does sound like a bit more than just the simple basis terms. Meanwhile, the 4th Doctor and Romana have to stop him with their new friend, Duggan. Okay, that does sound more than simplistic plots, but that's the most simplistic way to put it. But this simple story is just an absolute blast. This story is so fun, so engaging, so enjoyable. I don't think anybody could dislike this story. This one is so enjoyable. If you don't think it's good, you can at least have fun with it. I personally think this is just a fantastic adventure, really funny. Tom Baker at his best. Lana Ward's also really great as Romana, and also we get one of the best supporting characters of the show, who doesn't become a reoccurring or main character, Duggan. Duggan is really fun and really enjoyable, and also we get one of the best villain performances in the form of Julian Glover's Scaroff / Count Scarleone. He's so really good. I was talking about him not too long ago with my Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade review, which should be out now, if not soon. And yeah, he is just absolutely fantastic. He did play King Richard I in The Crusade, but that wasn't a villainous role. But here he gets to sink his teeth into the character. And it's actually this performance, apparently, that got him the attention of Dana Broccoli, who suggested him to be Christatos in For Your Eyes Only, produced by her husband, Albert R. Broccoli. So, this performance got him to be in a Bond film. Not to mention a cameo in The Empire Strikes Back was probably filmed around this point. And speaking of notable actors, John Cleese makes a cameo as an ARC critic in a scene in episode 4. That's really cool. That's probably the closest we're going to get to John Cleese being in Doctor Who. And on the whole, City of Death is just a fun, thrill-ride adventure, and the Paris scenes, they were able to take Doctor Who abroad for the first time for location filming. Woo! And it just looks so brilliantly, and the Paris stuff is so great. It's just absolutely brilliant. No K9 in this story, which is a shame. That would have made it even better for me, but ultimately it's still a really great story and a highly recommended story. If there's any classic story you're going to check out this story. Also check out Genesis of the Daleks, because you're not a true proper Doctor Who fan unless you check that one out, apparently. So check that one out, but also check out City of Death. I mean, you're going to need something upbeat after that story, after all. Okay, top 2. Ooh, here we go. Number 2. This story is a honest-to-God fantastic adventure. Great story and really, really enjoyable stuff, with almost all of the Doctors of the time coming in for this great 90-minute or 100-minute for the special edition anniversary adventure. Number 2 is, of course, The Five Doctors, the 20th anniversary special, which you could say is part of season 20, with the 5th Doctor as well as the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and sort of 4th Doctors from 1983. This story is just absolutely brilliant, with Terrance Dicks coming in to write this one after the producers rejected the Robert Holmes script. And to be honest, that Robert Holmes script wasn't that good. The plus side is that some of those elements were reused in the Two Doctors, but some of his other ideas weren't very good, like a robot First Doctor, what? And the Master being the main villain. Oh, that's predictable. But Terrance Dicks came in and wrote a fantastic Doctor Who anniversary script. The 20th anniversary special is just absolutely amazing, and it's just wonderful. Richard Herndale fills in for William Hartnell throughout the story, and he does a great job. He's a bit more aggressive and a bit more tougher, which is in contrast to David Bradley in Twice Upon a Time, where he's a bit more lighter and a bit more doddery. William Hartnell's honestly the best of the three. Speaking of William Hartnell, we do have a clip from the end of the Dalek Invasion of Earth, Part 6, as a pre-title scene for William Hartnell to appear properly in the story, even though it's from archive footage. Would this be one of the early... No, it wouldn't be one of the earliest uses of archive footage. Logopolis beat them to it. Maybe some earlier stories as well. Actually, no, William Space beat them to it as well, actually, come to think of it. But anyway... Patrick Troughton returns, and he's brilliant as the second Doctor, as is John Pertwee as the third. Tom Baker declines to return as he felt it was too soon after Logopolis, but they reused clips from Sharda, which had not been broadcast, so he and Lana Ward's Romana got to appear in the story. And we've also got returning companions. Got Susan is brought in, Caroline Ford returns, and this is probably her best on-screen performance. Nicholas Courtney teams up with the Second Doctor after meeting the Fifth Doctor in Mordred Undead earlier in the year, so it was great to see him here. Apparently Jamie was supposed to team up with the Second Doctor, but due to other commitments he was only able to make a cameo. Had he been in this story as a main character, Victoria would have taken Zoe's place and Zoe would have taken Jamie's place. Probably. That's how I think. I mean, Zoe's lines in the Five Doctors sound like Victoria would have suited those more if Jamie was with the Second Doctor and Victoria was in the cameo, and I think the lines that Zoe had would fit more for her character, and Zoe would have Jamie's lines in what we did get. But speaking of Fraser Hines and Wendy Pepper in their cameos, they were really great there too. And Nicholas Courtney, as I said, was really great. John Pertwee's Doctor, he would have had the Brigadier team up with him, and Sarah Jane Smith would have gone with Tom Baker. But due to the Fraser Hines stuff and also Tom Baker not coming in, John Pertwee got Elizabeth Slade and Sarah Jane to team up with him, and of course with using the clips of Shada, the Fourth Doctor got Romana. Elizabeth Slade is great again as well here, and also John Leeson makes a cameo as the voice of K9, and as Roy Skelton as the voice of the Dalek. They get cameos. It's nice to see them there, even though they could have played bigger roles, but oh well. Also Mike Yates, Richard Franklin and Caroline Johns, Liz Shaw are also here for cameos as well, and they're really great too. And of course our main three cast: Peter Davison as the Fifth Doctor, Janet Fielding as Tegan Travanka, and Mark Strickson as Vizsla Turlough, plus Anthony Aney as the Master. No comedian, because the prop was falling apart. They only used him one more time after the King's Demons, but had that prop been working, he could have popped up in this story. Heck, it might even have been fun for him to actually make a cameo, maybe in the extended cut. But yeah, this one is a great story, really enjoyable characters and cast, and just absolutely amazing. And some CDs just fell down. Sorry, Big Finish stuff. But yeah, Five Doctors ultimately is one of the best stories that I've seen. On my overall list, it probably would come third. But as for this classic ranking, it's certainly number 2. But what could possibly beat this story as my number 1 choice? What could possibly be the best story of the classic era, the best story of the entire show for a good 25 years from its broadcast, providing my opinion of the Day of the Doctor doesn't go down after its rewatch. Otherwise it stays as the best story. Otherwise this one stays as the best story of all time. What could possibly be my favourite story, which just so happens to be my favourite 7th Doctor story of the classic series? What could it possibly be? It's Remembrance of the Daleks. It's me. Honestly. Remembrance of the Daleks from season 25 with the 7th Doctor, 1988, is my favourite classic series story. Yeah, I was building up so much. It was going to end on that joke, how you know me, you know how much I love this story. This was the 4th classic Doctor Who DVD I got, the special edition one, and I had seen a few classic series stories beforehand, before getting the DVDs. Attack of the Cybermen and the 2 Doctors had been amongst them, but it was Remembrance of the Daleks that got me into the classic era in a big way. I had enjoyed Doctor Who and the Silurians, the Sea Devils and Warriors of the Deep, don't judge, but it was Remembrance of the Daleks that really got me into the classic series. I really loved it, and I was happy to start getting the classic DVDs as well. As we went on, Genesis of the Daleks and Destiny of the Daleks were the next 2. Then I got Earthshock, Delta and the Bannerman, and the K9 Tales, The Invisible Enemy and K9 Company, Girl's Best Friend, and then those were Genesis and Destiny were just picked those up in Forbidden Planet Cambridge. The other ones were Well Done at School gifts, and then the 5 Doctors 25th Anniversary Edition and the 2 Doctors for Christmas presents, and then we went from there basically with collecting Doctor Who DVDs, and the See Her and the Beneath the Surface stories were just something that my aunt gave me that someone else didn't want and gave it to her, and she thought I would like them. But it's really with the Remembrance of the Daleks Special Edition DVD that I wanted to get, had wanted to get the toy set from that story. But then I thought actually it'd be great to have the DVD from the DVD of that story, so you can actually watch it, watch that story. And I've got both, actually. I've got the story on DVD, on special edition DVD to be precise, as well as the original DVD, and the toy set I managed to pick up at a later date, the Dalek toy set. Oh, that started it. But since then, my love for this story has not changed that much over the last 8.5 years. First saw it in October 2011, and it's not changed in the last 8.5 years. I love Remembrance of the Daleks. This is a fantastic story. The plot is amazing. Some fantastic action, some fantastic cinematography, editing's great. Sylvester McCoy really gets into the role of the Seventh Doctor. His best performance was still yet to come, as was Sophie Alders as Ace, but I feel like they were really getting into their roles, especially considering Ace is slightly different to what she was in Dragonfire, where she was a bit of an angry teen, a bit rebellious. Whilst we still get a bit of that here, she's a bit more calmed down and she's more willing to learn from the Doctor and a bit more adventurous and, dare I say, likeable. In fact, I wasn't so keen on Ace in Dragonfire, but from Remembrance of the Daleks onwards, she's the best companion of the classic series. Her or Sarah Jane. Might be leaning more towards her. This includes K9, by the way, because I personally, K9's my favourite, but after him, it's between Ace and Sarah Jane, and you can see the Ace 7th Doctor dynamic starts from here, really, as well as the start of the Cartmel Master Plan. And yeah, these whole hints of the Doctor being more than just another Time Lord, including my favourite deleted scene, which I think should actually have been in the episode. It's only 5 seconds. Should have stayed in the episode. In the end, you are just another Time Lord. Oh, Davros, I am far more than just another Time Lord. Wow. And that's just a deleted scene. Imagine what the rest of the story's like. Just absolutely amazing. Some really great stuff. Not to mention some great supporting characters. These are the Jago and Lightfoot characters of Remembrance of the Daleks. Jago and Lightfoot from the Times of Wang Shang. And I compared these characters to them because they got their own audio spin-off series about 25 years later, almost. The countermeasures are fantastic supporting characters, with Group Captain Gilmore, played by Simon Williams, Professor Rachel, can't remember her surname, and Dr. Alison Williams. So yeah, Simon Williams, Pamela Salem, and Karen Greethall do great jobs as their supporting characters, as does the guy who plays Mike Smith, but he's not surviving this story. Oh, and remember those political stuff I mentioned with Genesis of the Daleks? Oh, we got some more political stuff here. Oh, but Doctor Who was never supposed to be political before 2017. Idiots. It's always been political. As the 10th Doctor said, I'm not winding you up. And also, if this was going to be the final Dalek story, as it was in the classic series, and the final Davros story, it would have wrapped things up on a really nice little bow, but leaving it open in case they wanted to do another story with McCoy's successor in a few years, had the show not been cancelled. Ultimately, of course, things lead to something a bit bigger than that in reality. Time War. Oh yeah, this one, along with Genesis of the Daleks and Resurrection of the Daleks, pretty much are the precursors of the Time War. First shot in Genesis by the Time Lord, second shot in Resurrection when they tried to have the Doctor assassinate the Time Lord, the High Council, and now here the Doctor destroys Skaro the first time. So ultimately, not too long after, sometime during his 8th incarnation, the Daleks and the Time Lords go to war, with massive consequences that would affect the new series. Ooh, at least the earlier years, anyway. This story is pretty much it's the conclusion of the Dalek Civil War as seen in Revelation of the Daleks, but it's more or less the very, very, very beginnings of the Time War that would affect the future of the show's chronological timeline, following some earlier shots in Genesis and Resurrection, but it's this one that really kicks the Time War into its early gears. Ooh, looking back on it, it's quite her thing. You can even tell some of this stuff is almost setting up the Time War unintentionally. Russell T Davies obviously took some inspiration from around here. Really great stuff. And also, I think Chris Chibnall's taking some inspiration from the Cartmel Master Plan with what he's doing so far. Say what you like about that. Please wait until a video talking about the new series to do so. Actually, don't talk about it in these comments. It's classic series stories only. But yeah, this story is definitely, and if this era even is very good for inspiration stuff. Well, certainly season 25 and 26. And this magnificent story is the cherry on top. Things started around this point, things ended around this point, and it was just a great way to combine lots of elements together, and ultimately it's the best Dalek story of the show. It's my favourite 7th Doctor story, and it's my favourite classic series story, and depending on what I think of Day of the Doctor after my rewatch for these reviews, it could honestly stay the best story of all time. If my opinion on Day of the Doctor goes down, at the moment that's my favourite story of all time, but if that goes down, Remembrance of the Daleks will be my favourite story of all time. And for the 2 years between me first watching this story and me first watching Day of the Doctor, it was. And it could easily go back down to that. So, yeah, don't be surprised if Remembrance of the Daleks gets first or second place on an overall ranking list, because it will be first or second. It's not going to be any lower. So that's it from my ranking. So to recap, number 20 was Inferno, number 19 was The Invasion, number 18 was The Androids of Tara, number 17 was Pyramids of Mars, number 16 was Spearhead from Space, number 15 was The Enemy of the World, number 14 was The Daemons, number 13 was Survival, number 12 was The Daleks' Master Plan, number 11, The Deadly Assassin, number 10, The Caves of Androzani, number 9, Earthshock, number 8, The Mind Robber, number 7, Attack of the Cybermen, number 6, Genesis of the Daleks, number 5, The Ark in Space, number 4, The Tomb of the Cybermen, number 3, City of Death, number 2, The Five Doctors, and number 1, my personal favourite classic series story, is Remembrance of the Daleks. And like I said, it could easily go back to being my favourite story of the entire show, depending on what I think of the Day of the Doctor after the next rewatch. We'll find out. And whilst we're there, it's possible if Day of the Doctor stops being my favourite story of the new series, then Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways will likely top that. If Day of the Doctor is not my favourite of the new series anymore, if it's still favourite of the new series but not of the overall show, it's Remembrance of the Daleks at the top. But just saying, if it's not the favourite of the new series after that either, then Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways will be. And from season 27. Seasons 25 and 27 had the best Dalek stories, and that's season 27 of what we got, series 1, not the originally planned season 27. They didn't have a Dalek story planned. But anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching this ranking. I could do a few more classic series rankings, but series 3 season 29 reviews are definitely on their way. Promise, after the series 12 ranking, series 3 reviews will begin. Probably right afterwards even, to be honest, with Runaway Bride's case. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. I mean, no, that's not like the third Doctor or the 11th Doctor, where their first story is one of their best story. I mean, no, it's like not. I mean, it's not like the third Doctor, where his first story is probably my second best favourite. I mean, it's not like the third Doctor, where his first story is one of his best. Come on. Like the Space Pirates was. No, these guys, and Harry, Ian, not only are they great leads, but they also were, not only were, I should tell you now that we have now covered my favourite first, third, fifth normal 5th Doctor story, and 6th Doctor, so, but these top 4 now have favourite 5th Doctor multi-doc, and now these top 4 are favourite 5th Doctor with, despite a few sexist and racist, and the Tomb of the Cybermen is probably number 3 of this list, which should be out soon, if it wasn't already out now. He did play a character in The Crusade. He did play William. He did King. That was cool, and this, and along with a cameo. Also, okay, top 3 territory now. Moving into technically it's season 20, but it's also the 20th anniversary special is Brigadier Lethbridge, as well as Tom Baker, but it's Remembrance of the Daleks that really got me into the show. Attack of the Cybermen had been amongst, but it was a remembrance of the Daleks. I mean, I enjoyed the ones I'd seen with John Pep, and then got Earthshock, Delta and the Bannerman, the fight, and in the end, you are merely just... Oh, Davros, I'm for fuck. If you love Jaeger and Lightfoot from Talents of Wang Chang, then you've got... These are the countermeasures. Woo! With Group Captain, damn it, Dr. Alison Williams, Professor Rachel, I think, but yeah, they were great characters with, but yeah, Simon Williams, I've already mentioned that, but still, but, okay, and it also, but ultimately, this is such an amazing and so this is basically, this one is definitely a precursor. So this one is basically the anyway, and Remembrance of the Daleks is the cherry on the top of the cake for this magnificent and this story is just things got started around this point, and ultimately also things both started around this point, ended around this, and ultimately made not only one of the best Dalek stories of the show, but possibly the best Dalek. So, to wrap up this ranking, and to recap the honourable men, and to recap number 18, another Dalek story, and from season 27, season 27, series 1, by the way. Anyway, so, not in the next couple of days, but series 3 reviews are definitely coming up, season 29,